I chose to chase my dream of art over my parents' demands. 10 years later, my $14 million empire made them beg, until a secret will changed everything. I never asked my parents for money. But when they saw my $14 million bank balance, they screamed, "How dare you hide this from us?" I smiled and said, "Remember when you kicked me out? I never wanted their approval. Or at least, that's what I told myself as I stood in my penthouse office, staring at the city lights below. An email had just popped up on my screen from my younger sister. It read, "Mom and Dad are struggling. They need help with the mortgage. I know you probably can't afford much, but anything would help." I let out a bitter laugh. If only they knew. 10 years ago, at the age of 18, I stood in our cramped living room as my father's face turned red with rage. "Art school? You want to waste your life on art school?" he bellowed, waving my acceptance letter like it was poisonous. "We didn't raise you to be this foolish, Sarah." My mother sat quietly on the couch, her hands folded in her lap. She always stayed silent during these moments, letting my father's anger fill the room while she disappeared into herself. "I got a scholarship," I said firmly, though my voice trembled. "And I saved enough from my part-time jobs to cover the rest." "Ridiculous," my father snapped, crumpling the letter. "You're going to business school like your sister. End of discussion." But for once in my life, it wasn't the end. I stood my ground. No, that single word changed everything. My father's face went from red to purple. "Then get out," he roared. "If you think you're smart enough to make it on your own, go ahead. But don't come crawling back when you fail." I packed my bags that night, hands shaking but resolve firm. My sister Mullen watched from her doorway, her eyes wide with a mixture of horror and fascination. "You're really leaving?" she asked. "I have to," I whispered, stuffing clothes into my duffel bag. "I can't live someone else's life anymore." My mother appeared in my doorway as I was zipping up my bag. For a moment I thought she might stop me, might finally stand up to my father. Instead, she pressed an envelope into my hand. "Your grandmother wanted you to have this when the time was right," she said. "I think that's now." Inside was a letter and a key to a small safety deposit box. I didn't open the letter until I was sitting in my cheap motel room that night, trying not to cry. "My dearest granddaughter," it began. "If you're reading this, you've finally chosen your own path. I always knew you would. The key enclosed belongs to Box 247 at First National Bank. Inside, you'll find what you need to start your journey. Remember, true art isn't just about creating beauty. It's about seeing value where others see nothing. Love, Grandma Rose." The next morning, I opened that safety deposit box with trembling fingers. Inside was a collection of what looked like old jewelry, some papers, and another letter. "These pieces belonged to my grandmother," the note explained. "She was an art collector in the 1920s. Most people think they're costume jewelry, but they're not. Find Marcus Chen at Golden Age Antiques. He'll know their true worth." I almost dropped the box when Marcus finished his evaluation. The costume jewelry was actually a collection of rare Art Deco pieces worth over $400,000. But more valuable than the money was Marcus's offer. "I see you understand art's true value," he said. "How would you like to learn the business?" That was the beginning. Marcus became my mentor, teaching me everything about the art and antique world. I learned how to spot genuine pieces, how to negotiate, and how to build relationships with collectors. While my family thought I was probably waiting tables or living on the street, I was building a network that would become the foundation of my empire. Within 2 years, I opened my first gallery. By year 5, I had 3 locations and a reputation for finding hidden gems in the art world. Now, 10 years later, I own the largest private art dealership network in the country, with a personal net worth of over $14 million. My family never knew. They never bothered to check. The only photos they saw of me were carefully curated social media posts showing a modest apartment and a simple life. My sister occasionally sent condescending messages about job openings at her company, in case you need real work. I kept the illusion going because it was easier than dealing with their sudden interest in my life. But now, staring at my sister's email about our parents' mortgage, I realized the time for illusions was over. I picked up my phone and called my sister. "Mullen, bring Mom and Dad to my office tomorrow," I said. "I think it's time we talked." "Your office?" She sounded confused. "You mean the coffee shop where you work?" "No," I said, looking around my penthouse suite at Morgan Tower. "My actual office. I'll text you the address." "Morgan Tower?" She laughed. "Sarah, you can't just walk into Morgan Tower and pretend you have an office there. Security won't even let you in the lobby." I smiled, thinking of the building I purchased last year. "Trust me, they will. Just be here at 9 a.m., and Mullen, tell Mom and Dad to bring their mortgage papers. All of them." The next morning, I watched through my office windows as they pulled up in my father's aging sedan. Even from 30 stories up, I could see their confusion as the security guard directed them to the private elevator, the one that only went to the penthouse floor. My assistant buzzed the intercom. "Your family is here, Miss Harrison. Send them in," I said, turning to face the door. The looks on their faces as they entered my office were worth every second of the past 10 years. My father stopped mid-stride, his mouth hanging open. My mother grabbed the doorframe for support. Mullen just kept blinking, as if expecting the scene to change. The office itself told the story of my success better than any words could. Original paintings worth millions adorned the walls. My desk was a restored Art Deco masterpiece that would make museum curators weep, and through the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city spread out below us like a kingdom I'd quietly conquered. "Sarah." My mother's voice was barely a whisper. "What is this?" "This," I said calmly, "is my office. Welcome to Harrison Fine Arts and Acquisitions." My father's face was doing that familiar red to purple transition. Impossible, he sputtered. You're a barista or something. You post about your apartment, your struggle. I walked over to a painting on the wall, a piece I discovered at a small estate sale for $500 that was now worth $2,300,000. Actually, I said, I'm the owner and CEO of the largest private art dealership network in the country. Those social media posts? Carefully crafted fiction. But, Mullen was still struggling to form complete sentences. The Morgan Tower? This is mine, I finished for her. Well, technically it belongs to my company, but since I own the company... That's when my father exploded. How dare you hide this from us? We're your family. All this time you've been secretly what? I cut him off, my voice sharp. Secretly succeeding. Secretly building something amazing. Secretly proving you wrong about everything. I walked to my desk and sat down, letting the full weight of my position sink in. Now, about that mortgage problem. The silence in my office was deafening. My father's face had gone from purple to an alarming shade of crimson as he processed what he was seeing. My mother kept running her fingers along the edge of my desk, as if trying to convince herself it was real. Mullen just stood there, mouth slightly open, staring at the original Monet on my wall. I opened my laptop, pulled up my banking dashboard, and turned the screen toward them. Since we're being honest now, here's my current balance, $14,236,542. My mother actually gasped. My father's hand started shaking. Mullen dropped her designer purse, the one she always bragged about at family gatherings. This is why you're here, I continued, pulling out a folder. You need help with the mortgage. 3 months behind if I'm not mistaken. The bank is threatening foreclosure. How did you... Mullen started. I own shares in that bank, I said flatly. I know everything about our family's finances. I know about Dad's failed investments, Mom's credit card debt, and your underwater real estate ventures, Mullen. My father finally found his voice. You knew we were struggling and did nothing? Your own family? I stood up slowly, placing both hands on my desk. Remember the night you kicked me out? Don't come crawling back when you fail. Those were your exact words, weren't they? That was different, he sputtered. We were trying to protect you from making a huge mistake. No, I said firmly. You were trying to control me. There's a difference. I walked over to the window, looking out at the city I had conquered while they weren't watching. For 10 years, I built this company from nothing. No help, no support, no encouragement from my family, just hard work, determination, and the gift Grandma Rose left me. My mother's head snapped up. Rose. She believed in me. I cut her off. She saw what none of you could, that I had a vision worth believing in. She gave me the tools to start this journey, but I built this empire myself. I turned back to face them. Every holiday dinner, every family gathering, I listened to your subtle jabs. Still working at that little art shop, Sarah. When are you going to get a real job, Sarah? You could always come work for my company, Sarah. We need someone to handle the mailroom. Mullen had the grace to blush at that last one. It had been her favorite dig at our last Christmas dinner. Now you need my help, I continued. Now, suddenly, I'm worth acknowledging. Now that you've seen my bank balance, I'm finally good enough to be part of this family. My father stood up straighter, his businessman persona taking over. We can discuss the past later. Right now, we need to talk about the mortgage. As your family... Stop right there, I held up my hand. Let me show you something. I pressed a button on my desk and the large screen on the wall came to life. Financial documents appeared. Bank statements, property deeds, investment portfolios. This is everything, I said. Every debt, every failed investment, every financial mistake. The total amount needed to clear everything and put this family back on solid ground is exactly $2,400,000. My father's eyes lit up with hope. Mullen started to smile. My mother reached for my hand across the desk. I pulled my hand back. I have that amount set aside in a separate account, I said. I've had it set aside for years, actually. Every time you hit a rough patch, every time you nearly lost the house, I watched and waited. I wanted to see if any of you would ever try to actually fix things yourselves, but you never did. I continued. Instead, you took out more loans. You remortgaged the house. You borrowed from friends. You did everything except admit you needed to change. I sat back down at my desk. So, here's what's going to happen. I will clear every debt. I will save the house. I will even set up a trust fund to ensure this family never faces financial hardship again. They all started to speak at once, but I held up my hand again. But there are conditions, I said firmly. First, Dad will retire. No more risky investments. No more trying to prove yourself. Second, Mullen will close her failing real estate business and go back to school. I know you always wanted to be a teacher before Dad pushed you into business. Mullen's eyes widened. I was the only one who remembered her original dream. Third, I continued, Mom will finally start that small bookstore she's always dreamed of. I'll provide the startup capital. My mother started crying quietly. She'd given up that dream 30 years ago to support Dad's business ambitions. And finally, I looked each of them in the eye. We're going to have weekly family therapy sessions, all of us. Because money isn't our only problem, and I'm tired of pretending it is. My father started to object, but my mother put her hand on his arm. We'll do it, she said softly. All of it. I nodded, then pressed another button on my desk. My assistant entered with a stack of documents. These papers make everything official, I explained. The debt clearance, the trust fund, the conditions, everything. Take them home, read them carefully. If you agree, sign them and bring them back tomorrow. As they stood to leave, still looking shell-shocked, I added one more thing. And Dad, that thing you said 10 years ago about me crawling back when I failed? He looked at me, his face a mixture of shame and regret. I never failed, I said quietly. I just succeeded without you. They left my office in silence, clutching the documents like lifelines. Through my window, I watched them get into their car and drive away. My assistant came in with a cup of tea. She always knew when I needed it. Are you okay? She asked gently. I thought about the past 10 years, the long nights, the hard work, the lonely holidays. But I also thought about the strength I found, the confidence I built, and the woman I'd become. Yes, I said, smiling slightly. I think I finally am. The next day they returned with the signed papers. We began the process of rebuilding, not just their finances but our family. It wasn't easy. Years of resentment and hurt don't disappear overnight, but slowly, we started to heal. My father actually apologized, something I never thought I'd hear. My mother opened her bookstore, which became a beloved local landmark. Mullen went back to school and now teaches art to elementary students. She's never been happier. As for me, I kept building my empire, but now I do it openly. No more hiding, no more pretending to be less than I am. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't making others feel small. It's showing them how big you can become without their approval. My grandmother's old jewelry box sits on my desk now, a reminder of where it all began. Inside, there's still one piece I've never sold, a simple gold locket with her picture in it. On difficult days, I open it and remember her words. True art isn't just about creating beauty, it's about seeing value where others see nothing. She was right, and sometimes the most valuable thing you can find is your own worth. At least, that's what I thought until that Tuesday morning when I walked into my office and found my assistant, pale and wide-eyed, holding a thick envelope with trembling hands. It came by regular mail, she said, almost whispering. No return address. She backed away to her desk as if the envelope were radioactive. I closed the door behind me, curious and suspicious. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside, I found an authenticated copy of my grandmother's will, except it wasn't the same document that her lawyer had shown me 10 years ago. This version named another primary heir, my mother. There was a strange silence inside me, the kind that emerges when everything around you is calm but your mind is on the verge of collapse. I read and reread the pages looking for some flaw, a date, a misspelled name. It was authentic. The notary seal was there. The signatures too. My heart beat faster. I picked up the phone and called the lawyer who had been handling my business from the beginning. He answered on the third ring, as always. I need you here now, I said. It's urgent. 40 minutes later, he was examining the document under the light in my office. Sarah, this is legitimate, he said. But how, I asked, feeling my stomach twist. Grandma left everything to me. She gave me the key. She wrote that letter. This here, he said, taking a deep breath. This contradicts everything. Wills can be updated, and this one is dated 3 months before her death. It's more recent. I looked out the window, the cloudy sky reflecting my mood. Can this be contested? I asked. It can, he replied, but if it's accepted as valid, technically everything that came from that safe belongs to your mother. I swallowed hard. Everything. The jewelry, the initial capital, the locket, my company, my empire, the entire foundation of my life. Suddenly, the last few weeks began to make sense. My mother's sudden interest in visiting me at the office, the fake smiles, the phone calls just to see how you're doing. And now this document. She knew. She waited for me to pay off all the family's debts, waited for me to become emotionally vulnerable, and then attacked. I felt a wave of nausea rise. I called Mullen. She answered with a dragging voice. Sarah, everything okay? Did you know? I shot back. Silence. Too long. Mullen, answer me. She told me last week, she finally said. I swore I wouldn't tell you. She said she just wanted what was rightfully hers. She had 30 years to go after what was hers, I yelled. She never lifted a finger. She only showed up now because she knows what I built. On the other end of the line, silence. The worst possible answer. I hung up. My breathing was rapid. I didn't know if I wanted to cry or destroy something. What my mother was doing was betrayal. But what hurt more was that she knew how much this would hurt me and did it anyway. And she didn't stop there. The next day I received a legal notification, the first of many. She was filing a lawsuit to legally claim the entire fortune derived from the jewelry in the safe with interest and monetary correction and more. She was alleging that I had concealed her assets and enriched myself at the expense of what would be her legitimate inheritance. My lawyer was livid. This is absurd, he said. You were the direct heir in the original will. Her letter is proof. She gave you the key, not your mother. This won't hold up. But the damage was already done. The next day, the story appeared in the press. Art Empire CEO may have built fortune on stolen inheritance. My inbox was flooded with messages from reporters, curious onlookers, and of course, art world speculators asking if my collections would be frozen. And in the middle of all this, a new message appeared on my phone from a number I hadn't saved, but I knew whose it was. You always thought you were better than us, Sarah. Now you'll learn that family can't be buried so easily. Mom. I felt my body freeze. The woman who once gave me an envelope with the key to my future now wanted to tear everything away from me with her own hands. And I swore by everything I am that I wouldn't let this happen, even if I had to destroy my mother in the process. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the floor of my apartment's living room with the lights off, my phone beside me, and the envelope still open on the coffee table. My mother's words kept echoing in my head. You always thought you were better than us. No, I never thought I was better. I just wanted the chance to be myself, and now she wanted to punish me for it. Punish me for having won. The next morning, I arrived at the office before everyone else. I went into the conference room and closed the curtains. I turned on my laptop and began organizing everything: contracts, documents from the safe, original jewelry appraisals, my grandmother's letter, the asset transfer records, everything that could prove that yes, maybe the will had been updated, but it was my grandmother who gave me everything while alive, with witnesses. I called my lawyer. I don't just want to defend myself, I said. I want to destroy her credibility before she destroys mine. He looked at me for a moment, as if considering advising me to go easy. But then he took a deep breath and said, "Then let's go to war." The first thing I did was call a press conference. Yes, a press conference. If she wanted to drag me through the mud, then I would drag her with me. I spoke clearly, with my grandmother's letters digitized on the big screen, along with a recording of the conversation I had with Marcus Chen, the antiquarian, talking about how my grandmother personally recommended him and that the box came to me while she was alive, not through a will. The press conference caused an uproar, but it wasn't enough. The following week, I was notified that my mother had obtained an injunction to freeze part of the company's assets, alleging that the business's growth occurred based on resources obtained illicitly. She claimed that everything, from the first gallery rent to the purchase of Morgan Tower, was the result of misappropriation. This wasn't just an attack on my image, it was an attempt to break me entirely. And then came the lowest blow. My mother went on television, yes, live, a full interview in prime time, crying, saying that her ungrateful daughter stole the family legacy, that Grandma Rose had confided in her the desire to see the family united, but that I had always been cold, isolated, selfish. She said it all with that soft martyr's voice, wiping her eyes with white tissues while the host sympathized with the mother betrayed by her own daughter. I almost threw up. I called Molin. She answered with a tense voice. "Did you see it?" I asked. "I saw it," she replied. She rehearsed everything, the makeup, the phrases, even the background music. "Sarah, she's going too far. This isn't right. And what are you going to do?" I challenged. "Stay silent again?" "I don't know," she said. I hung up. I had no more patience for indecision. In the following days, I lost contracts. Investors withdrew support. Partner galleries asked for some time. Emails went unanswered. Phone calls turned to silence. It was as if my reputation was being slowly drained, like a punctured balloon, and all because of a woman who ignored me for years and now appeared as a victim while I, the real victim, was portrayed as the villain. But then I received an email from Marcus Chen. Subject: the recording. It was an audio file of a conversation between him and my mother from 2 months earlier. She had gone to his store, tried to convince him to publicly say that the jewelry had been donated to me by mistake, that my grandmother's intention was for everything to be divided between the daughters, that I had misinterpreted. He refused, recorded everything, and sent it to me. I called my legal team. "We're going to sue her for slander, defamation, attempted fraud, and malicious litigation," I said. My lawyer smiled with pleasure. On the same day, I filed a lawsuit against her. And for the first time since this all began, I was the one who attacked first. The press changed its tone. They began questioning the betrayed mother narrative. Molin called me. She wanted to talk. "She used me too," she said. "Manipulated everyone." "It's too late, Molin," I replied. "I gave you so many chances." But she was crying, and for the first time she sounded sincere. "I want to testify in your favor," she said. "She forced me to lie. I saw Grandma's letter. She knew that was for you. She burned an older version where Grandma clearly said, you were the only one with the vision to take care of the family legacy." That hit me like a stab. She didn't just sue me, she destroyed evidence, and then I knew she wasn't just greedy, she was cruel. But now I was armed and ready. The following week we filed the new petition. Formal accusation, evidence, recordings, witnesses. Molin gave her statement. My lawyer read Grandma's letter in court. And me? I sat there, looking at my mother on the opposite bench. For the first time, she was the one who looked away because for the first time, she knew she was going to lose. The trial dragged on for weeks. My mother hired the best lawyers that borrowed money could pay because that's what she had now. Debts, appearances, and a blind faith that the public still saw her as the wronged mother. Except the truth began to seep through the cracks of her theater. In the final hearing, the judge asked for absolute silence before delivering the decision. Considering the facts presented, the original documents signed during the lifetime of the deceased, Rose Harrison, the eyewitnesses and recordings brought to the case, this court recognizes that the inheritance was transferred to the defendant, Sarah Harrison, in a legitimate and conscious manner by the deceased. Any attempt at subsequent questioning is considered opportunistic and without legal basis. My heart stopped for a second. Furthermore, he continued, this court condemns the plaintiff, Mrs. Evelyn Harrison, for malicious litigation, attempted documentary fraud, and public defamation. The payment of compensation for moral damages, and the prohibition of any new attempt to claim the already transferred assets is determined. I didn't know whether to cry, laugh, or collapse into my lawyer's lap. All I felt was an immense weight dissolving from my shoulders. My mother left the courthouse with her face covered, escorted by silent lawyers. The press no longer followed her as before. Some headlines began calling her what she really was, manipulative, self-interested, fake. But what really shocked me was seeing my father waiting for her outside. He was wearing the same old coat as always, the one with the patched elbow and the tired look of a man who spent his entire life trying to appear to be something he wasn't. She tried to smile at him. He didn't smile back. I saw him turn around and walk away alone. From that day forward, my mother disappeared from my life. No calls, no messages, nothing. I learned from sources that she sold everything she had to pay the fines and lawyers, that she moved to a small town in the interior, and that today she works in a small stationery store, far from everything, far from everyone. Molin, on the other hand, stayed close. She apologized countless times, said she didn't know how much she was being manipulated, that she let herself be, blinded by envy and our father's demands. She seemed truly repentant. So, one day, I decided to visit her. She lived in a small apartment now, far from the ostentation of before. She received me with a shy hug. "I was very wrong with you, Sarah," she said. "I know," I replied, "but I was also wrong in thinking you were like her." We talked for hours, about childhood, about Grandma Rose, about how we grew up trying to please a father who only recognized success when it came in the format he understood. And there, on that cramped sofa, drinking tea from a chipped mug, I realized that maybe, just maybe, part of my family could still be saved. In the following months, I returned to business with full force. Harrison Fine Arts and Acquisitions regained prestige. I closed international contracts and launched a new gallery in Paris. But something in me had changed. For the first time, it wasn't about proving anything to anyone. It was about living in peace. Even so, in moments of silence, I still looked at Grandma Rose's locket on my desk, that piece I never sold. I opened it once on a Sunday afternoon, alone in my office, and noticed a small detail I had ignored all these years. On the back of her photo there was an engraved phrase, almost erased by time, "May you know when to fight and when to let go." I closed my eyes. I felt a tear roll down. I fought. I fought against abandonment, against shame, against suffocating expectations. I fought for myself. And now I was letting go. Months later, I received a letter, handwritten, with no name on the return address. The envelope had familiar handwriting. My heart froze. I opened it. "Sarah, I don't ask for forgiveness. I know I went too far. Maybe one day you'll understand what it's like to grow old with the feeling that life slipped through your fingers. You became everything I never managed to be, and that destroyed me. I just wanted you to know that even after everything, when I see your name in the newspapers, I feel proud, even though I never deserved to say it out loud. Evelyn." I folded the letter carefully and put it in the same box where Grandma's letters were kept. Maybe I'll never forgive. Maybe she'll never redeem herself. But now I have a choice. And that's the true freedom I built. Alone, from scratch, with pain, with art, and with value where no one else saw it. So, after building my empire, exposing my mother's lies, and saving the family on my terms, am I the asshole for refusing to forgive?